everyone.
I'm back, baby.
It's Jake Ciely.
I'm great. Everybody else sucks.
Oh,
no. It's every nightmare I've ever had.
Excuse me?
It's time to check the link.
Pretty crazy, huh? But it doesn't matter because none of this has anything to do with the show.
You know what? You just made the list.
Oh, wait, you serious? Let me laugh even harder.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time. Really? No.
What's up, you ducks? It's week 4 of All in Football Ranks debate with Jeff Ratcliffe. At Jeff Ratcliffe, at the FTN Network, on SiriusXM, everywhere you can find great content. And make sure you're following him, and make sure you're following his work. And by the way, at FTN, code ALLIN still gets you 20% off, ALLIN. And as another reminder, before we get rolling, I do these things quick. I get them out in a minute. Done. You can get to the show. And I missed my snap. If you didn't see that, Jeff, I missed my first snap. If you go to theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals, first free month, please subscribe, thumbs up, rate, review, leave a comment on the show. As Pat Mayo will say, just trick the algorithm, even if you're just like, hey, this is a comment. Just help us out. Help us get more attention so we can keep these free videos and free podcasts coming for you guys. Jeff, it's week 4 already. October is this weekend is October, man.
Yeah, it goes quick. It goes very quick. It's hard to believe we're this far in, but it's a pivotal week. You know, after week 4, I think we kind of get a sense of who the team ultimately is that we drafted in each one of our leagues. I don't like to panic after the first 2 weeks. I used to make that mistake all the time, Jake, where I would be dropping players all over the place and trying to tinker with things. And then, you know, lo and behold, it'd be like December. There'd be teams steamrolling their way through the fantasy playoffs, and they'd be riding all these players that I drafted, right? and then drop. So after 4 weeks, though, that's where we start to see a little bit of separation. We get a little bit of clarity. Still not much. I equate it to an NFL game. We're almost on the first quarter. And sometimes we'll see a team get out to a hot start, and they don't win that game. So I think if we look at it that way, we're in good shape.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think 0-3, you're thinking to start making moves. Don't full-on panic, but you got to take some situations real quick before we get into the week 4. And that's why I set that up. And I'm glad you transitioned right into it without even me needing to do so, because that's why you were great, Jeff. I was talking about the CMC situation. And this is what I said. See if you agree, because I'm curious if you're on the exact same page. Maybe you differ a little bit. But in the waiver column, because I ended up getting a ton of questions about Christian McCaffrey. Should I trade for or should I trade away? And this is basically the entire rundown, Jeff. You're 0-3, 1-2, and you're in bad shape, and you can get an RB1, immediately trade because you need to win. If you're 3-0, 2-1, looking good, and you can get top 5 return, I'm okay with it, but I could go either way. If you're 3-0 and 2-1 and you're really good shape, go get him, but don't pay top 5 value. Does that all make sense to you? Or are you kind of on the same page with all that?
Yes, if you can get good return on investment. I don't want to just sell for the sake of selling.
Exactly.
I also think there's something that should be mentioned here. You know, time, it seems like it moves very quickly, right? Before we know it, it's going to be August again, and we're going to be drafting again. But in between now and August, a lot of crap is going to happen, and we are going to forget a lot of the mistakes we made the previous year. So if you have Christian McCaffrey and you're 0-3, Christian McCaffrey ain't your problem. Something else is going on with your team, and I think it is a great time to just go back, look at your draft, and say, oh, you know, in the second and third rounds here, I went with these guys. I got hit by injury. All right, that's fine. Or I went with these guys, and that was probably the wrong move. I shouldn't have drafted a quarterback here. Or, you know, maybe I should have went with a tight end in this spot where I didn't. Go back and take a look. Take a couple notes and put them in a place where you're going to find in August. I know that's probably hard to do, but I have a folder, Jake, in one of my
your notes on your phone. That's
what?
The best way to do it.
I'm old, man. I was born in the 70s. So
I'm glad you said that for the 0-3 because it's perfect. I'm not going to, if you're listening to the podcast, person who texted me, I apologize. I'm using it as your example, but I have a friend here locally. He is either 1-2 or 2-1. I forget. But the point was he just lost Christian McCaffrey. He was asking if he should take a trade. And I'm looking at his roster and I said, well, before I saw the rest of the roster, I said, what's the rest of your running backs? And he sent me his entire roster. And here's what I saw on the rest of his roster, Jeff. Patrick Mahomes starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott on the bench.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have been 1-2 or 0-3 even with Christian McCaffrey if you didn't go down that road.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I did a whole spiel today on my SiriusXM show about how if you have Mahomes, if you have Prescott, if you have Josh Allen, if you have, you name the top 10 fantasy quarterback or top 11, basically, you don't need a second quarterback. No. This is not the NFL. You don't need a backup. If it's a one quarterback league, every single week you're going to be able to pick up a viable quarterback. Heck, you could pick up Taylor Heineke this week, very likely in a lot of leagues, and probably not be that bad off. So, yeah, that's the starting spot. So you drafted Patrick Mahomes in what, the second or third round? Cool. You felt wonderful when you put a sticker on the board and you had Christian McCaffrey, but you really shot yourself in the foot. So make a note of that. I do it
in the fifth or sixth.
I do a Word document file, and it says, read me in August. And that's just my little notes from the previous year of where I think I could improve. And I still do it, Jake. I still do it every single year.
And that's really smart. To Hunter Smith asking this question, Jalen Hurts is solidified top 10. Yes, Jalen Hurts. That's one of the ones, if you have Jalen Hurts, I got asked this in the waiver column. They're like, I have Jalen Hurts. I think I want to go grab Kirk Cousins. I said, why? What? Like, you just don't do it. Go stash back up. Look at everybody chasing Chuba Hubbard this week and everything like. So let's talk about him real quick because we've already kind of danced around that a couple different ways. This could go, obviously, multiple directions, Jeff. I mean, he could walk in and be like Mike Davis was last year. He could walk in and fall on his face and not perform at all. It could be, hey, this team doesn't trust him in pass protection, so Royce Freeman is splitting the carries and touches down the middle. Like, which way are you leaning, and would Chuba Hubbard make your top 20 this week?
Yeah, people are already running out, picking up Devonta Freeman, thinking something happened there.
I know.
Well, all right, so here's how I'm viewing it. It's a whole we don't know routine. I wish I could stand here and pontificate and tell you I know the future and I know exactly what's going to happen with Chuba Hubbard. I do know that he's more of a change of pace back. That's what he profiles as. But at the same time, I was a little bit surprised that they used Mike Davis the way that they did last year, a guy who historically has underperformed as a ball carrier. And we're seeing it yet again, surprise, surprise, in Atlanta, but they used him as a true three-down back. Now, Matt Rule did go out of his way after the game and mention Royce Freeman first. Now, I don't know why, and maybe there's nothing to that other than he's in an oh crap moment. My star just got hurt, and first name comes to mind. I don't know. But I do think that we're going to see at least some Royce Freeman. So here's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for 70% of McCaffrey if I picked up Chuba Hubbard, which is an RB2, I think. Because McCaffrey, obviously 100% of McCaffrey is all world. 80% is Mike Davis last year. So like top front end RB2, maybe even back end RB1, depending on passing game. If I get that out of him, I can get by.
It's funny. I actually put it, not like didn't go sit there and go, here, I'm putting him here. But Chuba is at 20 for me.
Yeah,
he's in front of Mike Davis, Myles Gaskin, Darrell Henderson, which we'll talk about. That's a situation. So you have him at 18. Let me check in front of him and tell me who's behind him that I have in front of him. So I have Chuba behind Hunt and James Robinson. Are either of those behind Chuba?
Hunt by one spot.
Okay. What about Miles Sanders?
Miles Sanders behind because the Eagles apparently forgot how to run the football.
I'm not going to argue with you much on those. That's 17, 18, 19 for me. Sanders, Robinson, Hunt, Chuba. So not going to disagree with you much on there. By the way, if you want to make sure you're doing great, just so you know, number 8 and number 13, these two guys right here for the first 3 weeks in accuracy, as always, we continue to represent. Just want to throw that out there. This is why you listen to us and trust us in this. This is why we're on the same page. We're very close, just like we always are. All right, so we have Chuba Hubbard. I'm going to throw out Disha's question, Chuba and Godwin for Jefferson. I don't think that's selling high enough. I mean, the Godwin to Jefferson's a nice bump, but Chuba, I think, that's the CMC owner too. I think, I'm bringing this up to say this, Jeff. It's like I've seen a lot of, I picked up Chuba, I don't need him. Should I trade him? I think if you get a top 15, basically value, I would do it. That I think you could squeeze more out of that than Godwin and Chuba for Jefferson, don't you?
I do. I also want to question the idea of I don't need him.
He's your fifth running back, and you need wide receiver help. I think that's what.
But there is a scenario. There is a world where. Okay, we're already 2 games into the season. Christian McCaffrey missed all but 3 games last year, and the dude is already hurt.
All right.
There's a world where Chuba Hubbard becomes an RB2 for the rest of the season. Now, McCaffrey's going to be back, not going to be on injured reserve, but what if he gets hurt again? We saw him last year. He was phenomenal in 1 game when he came back, and then he got hurt again. So I don't have a problem necessarily with just picking him up and hoarding him for right now. Now, like you said, though, yeah, I do think, is Godwin for Jefferson straight up worth it? I mean, maybe you get a little bit more if you're getting Jefferson, but I think that's actually fair. You're giving way too much if you throw Chuba Hubbard in there.
Would you, so let me pull this into here, say like some 1-for-1s or kind of see what you're basically where you're thinking of with this. If somebody said, again, I don't need Chuba. That was, again, for the, that's context. But if you picked up Hubbard and whether or not he plays this week, we're about to talk to him, but would you send Hubbard to get Darrell Henderson? Because at least we know once Henderson's back, he should be back. Or is that you would just kind of hold Hubbard? Yeah, like you're hesitating.
Yeah, because Darrell Henderson is going to get hurt again. I don't need an injury predictor to figure this out. Sean McVay brought
Hubbard
in
or Edwards-Helaire
for that reason. Edwards-Helaire. Yeah,
Okay.
This week's tough, and I think the game script isn't going to do him any favors as well as the Eagles' defense. I think it's just going to be an explosive game in the passing game, and he's so negatively correlated to that passing game. But I definitely do like I know he's an RB2 every single week. I'm going to plug him in. I know there might not be always great games, but at least I can use him every single week. Can't necessarily obviously guarantee that with Hubbard.
If you need wide receiver more than running back, would you send him for Allen Robinson?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm buying low on Allen Robinson. This is a prime opportunity to buy low on him.
And so, all right, we're going to hit on that. We're going to touch on all these. By the way, how about, would you go this far? Would you go Hubbard for Devonta Smith?
That's probably you probably could maximize value more. Now, I think people are too low on Devonta Smith, but I think you can maximize value instead of getting a guy who a lot of people don't even have as a wide receiver 3 right now in their rosters. I think you can get a wide receiver 2 or a buy low Allen Robinson type instead.
Okay. Yeah, so Devonta Smith is actually tied for 4th in unrealized air yards. Basically, for everybody out there, it's air yards minus the actual receiving yards you have. So been targeted a lot, especially downfield, not catching it. Henry Ruggs was one of the leaders last year. Didn't really pan out for Ruggs last year. But again, this is looking for opportunities. The top 5, by the way, for everybody out there, number 1, even after last week, Valdez-Scantling, even after last week. 273 air yards he hasn't capitalized on. Number 2, Stefan Diggs, and then DJ Chark, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith. He's tied with A.J. Brown. You want to guess who number 6 was, Jeff? This is the craziest one.
Is it a New England Patriot?
No, it is the New York Jet.
Okay, then it's not Elijah Moore?
It is Elijah Moore.
Why I
Even
say the
being hurt.
Patriots is because Mac Jones had 600 and whatever 30-some air yards last week. We literally had to triple check with the FTN data charting team because I saw it and I'm like, guys, this isn't right. Come on. This is stupid. This is like double anybody else. No, it was freaking right. So that one completely blew me away.
That would be the same. All right, so rankings this week, the Dalvin Cook, Alexander Madison situation. We're on Wednesday, so we're talking about it as of today. Dalvin Cook plays. Are you just top 5, or are you concerned at all that he might be limited because they're still up in the air?
If he's cleared to play, I don't think he'll be limited.
Okay.
I don't know if he's cleared to play. There's rumblings behind the scenes. This is not a report. This is just complete rumor mill that this is a high ankle. And if it's a high ankle, it still could be a mild high ankle, but that's a 2 to 4 week absence. If it's mild, right. It's a 4 to 6 if it's a regular high ankle. So he's far from a lock to play. But if he is cleared, yeah, I'm firing him back up top 5.
All right. So how far up your ranks does Alexander Madison sit if Dalvin Cook is out again?
I mean, so initial rankings on Wednesday, I sometimes will put players in places to make statements. So literally as people are reading through, they stop on that player and they're like, oh, why is he here? I put Madison at 12 initially. Okay. I think I will go as high as 8 if Cook is not out. It's not the best matchup. I don't know how the game script is actually going to work out. But the nice thing, as we saw last week, is he can still be heavily involved in the passing game. So still a top 10 option for me.
So who are the 2 or 3 names right behind him for you as a curiosity?
Let's see. Jonathan Taylor.
Okay.
Ezekiel Elliott, DeAndre Swift, Antonio Gibson.
Okay. I think the Antonio Gibson would be the only tough call I have. So let's talk about Jonathan Taylor. This is another week of concerns. Nyheim Hines is more than a thorn. He's the entire basically branch sticking in the back of him. What are you doing? Like, Are you trying to buy low on Jonathan Taylor, or do you think this is a situation we're going to be frustrated with for the entire year?
If we don't learn from the past, we are destined to repeat it. Last year, how frustrated were we in the beginning of the season? And things did turn around down the stretch. He was helped by a favorable schedule. He still does face some of those teams this year. He still faces Houston and Jacksonville plenty. And we're worried because he didn't score fantasy points. But we also have a game where he averaged 6.2 yards per carry. Now, granted, it was only 10 carries. But I'm not worried about Jonathan Taylor. I still believe in the talent and the opportunity. And Nyheim Hines, for what it's worth as a passing down back, he's not going to be an early down runner. They are so confident in Jonathan Taylor that they're going to get Marlon Mack out. And your answer for every Marlon Mack question is no. Don't do it. No. I know you know his name. I know you might like him for what he did maybe 2 or 3 years ago. But no. Not at this point. I don't even care where he's traded to, if he's even traded.
I'm getting a lot. I got one person, again, I'm not calling anybody out, but it's just, if nothing, I'll put it this way, Jeff. Here's the only scenario. You are in a trade-happy league, and then you pick up Mac and immediately flip him because somebody like this might be in your league who said to me in the comments, they said, I should go grab Mac, right? Worst case scenario, he split snaps wherever he's traded to. I said, no, that's best case scenario. Let's be real about Marlon Mack and what we're trading for here. So, that perception, maybe that's the only reason why is you flip him to a trade. So, all right, let's talk about this situation. Darrell Henderson. Darrell Henderson, if he plays, where would you put him? If Darrell Henderson is out again, where would you put Sony Michel? Glorious matchup.
Back end RB2s. I have
For
Sony
both?
Michel because I'm not confident in Darrell Henderson. So I have Sony Michel at 21. I'd probably just put Darrell Henderson right around the same range because it's really you're playing off of volume here. I mean, I was actually really impressed with the volume for Sony Michel last week. So you're playing off of volume. The matchup, yes, but I don't think I'd go any higher than that.
Okay. And that's certainly fair. I'm going to get some of your questions. I'm going to hit the rest of the running backs, hit some questions, come back to wide receivers. So I see them. We are going to get to them. Let's talk San Francisco. We should just put San Francisco on the rundown every single week, honestly. Yeah. So that's really what it comes down to. If Elijah Mitchell's back, this is my stance. I'm ranking Mitchell over Sermon because Shanahan was the definition of being backed into a corner, forced to use Trey Sermon. He did everything in his power to not use him, and then he finally had to, just because he literally had no other options. If Mitchell's back, I think Mitchell's the lead. Now, is it going to be 70% of the workload? No, but I would still put Mitchell over Sermon. Are you on the same page?
I'm actually probably more bullish than you were right. He was backed into a corner. He literally couldn't use any of the other running backs. He was trying.
He tried. He started the game with Juszczyk.
Well, Juszczyk's not a running back. No.
I know.
We can call him a fullback all we want, but I guess H-back's probably the best way to put it. Manufacturer, just get anybody back there. Hey, Kittle, take some reps. And not use Kerryon Johnson. He couldn't use any of the other two running backs there. I think it's Elijah Mitchell, and it's not close. It was Elijah Mitchell, and it wasn't close against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I see plenty of volume there for him once he's back in the mix. I'm really hoping it's this week because I have him in a couple leagues, including the Flex League, where I was really looking forward to using him because of all that volume. So I've actually told people they're really in a pinch and they really needed to make a move, and Trey Sermon was the only player they could drop him. I know I'm not saying just automatically drop him from your team, but if you had to make a move to actually for your starting lineups this week, like somebody had said, I need a wide receiver. Cole Beasley's out there. Trey Sermon's the only one I can drop. Okay, drop him. If you really need that wide receiver, I don't think there's much long-term value to holding Trey Sermon, especially once Jeff Wilson gets back in the mix.
Yeah, so an interesting situation is I said the same thing about this running back and see if you're in the same. Maybe you could just tell me if you had to pick between the two, who would you rather have? I said the same thing to people about Tyson Williams because, and I got pushed back. He was like, well, he still had the most snaps. I said, snaps mean nothing if you're not getting the ball. And here's what I compared it to. It's like, I'm not just dropping Tyson Williams just to like, get him the hell off my roster. I don't want him there anymore. But like you just said, if the question is, I have nobody left to drop and I'll give you an example. Somebody's like, do I drop Tim Patrick or Tyson Williams? Williams is the one to go because this is why. It's the Buccaneers. if he leads this week and gets the touches, can you definitively say you trust him in week 5? I don't think you can, and that's why I'm saying go ahead and drop Williams. Again, I don't want to see what happens this week and maybe even get trade value out of him after this week, but he would be the one to go because I don't think you're ever going to be able to trust Williams.
And I think that's a common situation for a lot of people as well. That's another one who's come up. Should I drop him? I do think it's funny, though, you bring that up because occasionally we do this on Mondays on the SiriusXM show where we have voicemails from during the games on Sundays. You capture the emotion during the games. We know there's no way of recreating that. But it is funny because somebody called in this weekend, and if you saw my tweet about Jonathan Taylor Thomas, people were like, why do you know how old he is? Because somebody made a Jonathan Taylor Thomas joke on the show. That's why. And I looked it up. I'm like, oh, my God, the dude's 40? Wow.
Is he
really?
He
is a man, though. Yes, he's 40. He turned 40 in September earlier this month. So we are all officially old. But on top of that, though, the guy said something like, I'm going to drop you, Jonathan Taylor. Like, Jonathan Taylor doesn't care. You can spite drop all you want. Jonathan Taylor is going to sleep very well tonight. Regardless of what you do. So if we're making drops out of spite, we have to kind of go back to the drawing board. Just go back to the drawing board. Like, don't spite drop Tyson Williams. But if you need to drop him, I'm with you. You could drop him. That backfield's just a complete mess.
Would you rather hold on to Sermon or Williams?
Ooh, probably Williams, but I really don't want to have to start him this week.
No, and so let's see if you agree again on this one. Now, if we throw in Michael Carter's name in all three of them, Michael Carter is the one I'm holding on to with dear life. Are you not?
Not even close. I love the fact that we're seeing an expansion in his usage, and I think it's a matter of time.
Wait, you're saying you're holding Carter, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, that's what I said. I'm holding on to him for dear life. That's
absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement. People. It was as I was getting asked in week 2, week 1, like, should I drop Michael Carter? I would literally put out there in our Discord a note to everybody, like, just don't drop him. And then, of course, you know what I get? Well, we know you love Michael Carter. It's like, no, I just drafted him for a reason. And that reason wasn't to cut him after what I expected in week 1 happened. Hold him. He's talented. And I think the team actually starts to rebound a little bit here this week, a better matchup, for the passing game for sure. So hopefully Wilson gets a little bit more confidence. I still believe in him from a talent standpoint. It just looks like a rookie. That's all.
Yeah, this was the entire play with Williams and Carter. It was week 6, 7. You hope they take over. Williams out of the gate a little bit stronger than Carter, but this was always it wasn't week 1. This wasn't Najee Harris. They weren't drafted immediately to be the guy in 90% of the workload. By the way, Najee Harris, the only running back in the league, not just over 90% on the field, the only person over 80, because Kamara's second at 80% on the dot. That's how much Najee Harris. Offensive lines don't matter. Volume matters. Real quick before we get to some other, this will transition as well. Running back / questions, and we'll get some more questions. Damien Harris, how concerned are you? Because I'm mildly concerned, but not that concerned, because how many times are the Patriots going to be? I mean, maybe 2 more times going to be in a game script like that. And that's just what happened to Damien Harris last week. He got game scripted early, and the Patriots were just a lot pass happier. He still sees some passing downs, but we know J.J. Taylor or Brandon Bolden is stepping into the James White role. I'm not panicking too much, Jeff, but I think maybe people are panicking if they thought Harris would be more than a low-end RB2.
Where did we rank him coming into the season? I had him at 21. I mean,
that's right. That's low end RB2.
That's really where he is. We shouldn't act shocked that the Patriots don't pound the ball on the ground in a game where they get down quickly and are fighting from behind, and Mac Jones is throwing interceptions. I mean, I'm not shocked at this whatsoever.
That's not going to change much.
Yeah, probably won't. I just hope Jameis doesn't. I think Jameis had his eyes closed on that throw too, by the way, just heaving it into the end zone, and Callaway fortunately bailed him out. But yeah, I'm not surprised at all. And there's going to be games where he has 20 plus carries and goes for 100 plus yards and scores a touchdown. Everybody's going to love him. There's going to be games like this. This is the ride we're on for this season with Damien Harris.
Yeah. Again, this might be – where do I have Damien here this week? I'm at 29 because I am legitimately concerned Tom Brady is looking to break the record in the first quarter, which only takes, 68 yards, somewhere around that? He's going to break it in the first quarter, and he might throw 80 billion times to Antonio Brown just to really stick it to this team any way he can. Tom Brady's that guy. Tom Brady is – we know he'll do it. Yeah, let me put this over under Tom Brady 324.5 and 2.5 touchdowns.
Well, I did take the under on the 2.5, but that was with with some odds in there as well.
Okay. Just straight up, which side are you taking on that one?
I'll take the over on the yards. I don't know about the touchdowns, to be honest, because the game script could get out of hand here. I do expect them to just throttle them early, but it wouldn't surprise me if he went out and put up some
never
big
stop
numbers.
passing.
Yeah. I hope it goes to Gronk. It's plus 400 I saw for Gronk to catch the record-breaking reception. So I really do hope it goes to Gronk. He's not the odds-on favorite too, by the way, but plus 400, not too shabby.
That isn't too shabby. Let's see if we can get some of these questions quickly in here. This is a tough one for a lot of people. We talked about him last week. Might as well talk about him again. Robert Woods. So the question is, another flop week? This is the situation people are dealing with. Would you go Woods, Renfro, or Christian Kirk? Like, this is where we are now with Robert Woods.
It's Woods. I'm going to follow the volume. Christian Kirk is still the number 3. He's still getting out-snapped by A.J. Green and DeAndre Hopkins. Christian Kirk is facing the Rams, by
Worst
the way.
matchup this week. Where Kirk has been playing was a favorable matchup last week. It's a bad matchup this week.
And out of the slot, where Jalen Ramsey is. Jalen Ramsey doesn't shadow anymore. Last week, Darius Williams actually was shadowing a little bit on Mike Evans, not Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey goes to the slot, and that's what they do. Hunter Renfro, guys, chill with Hunter Renfro, the poor man's Tyler Boyd.
No, he's Cole Beasley. Don't hate on him.
No, he is
too
not.
much.
He doesn't play enough to be Cole.
He doesn't
Beasley.
play enough to be Cole Beasley, but he's their version of Cole Beasley. But yeah,
he's their version of Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is the poor man's Cooper Kupp, and Hunter Renfro is the poor man. I'd rather have Bryan Edwards on a fantasy roster right now because he plays more. Robert Woods is playing a lot. Deshaun Jackson got all the highlights. That was like, Jake, if I just said, name this player. He has 3 catches for 120 some yards and a touchdown. It's like automatically like Deshaun Jackson before you even finish. We just have to chill. Robert Woods is a nice buy low. The volume is still there from a snap standpoint, and he's still the second most targeted receiver on that squad.
Okay. Yeah. I'm 100% with you on that one. AJ Green or Emmanuel Sanders the rest of the season. That's an easy Emmanuel Sanders, correct?
It is, but can I say neither? I know that people get upset when I say I'm not really in on Emmanuel Sanders, but I think they're chasing last week's touchdowns. He had 6 targets in the game. He has 20 on the season. Stephon Diggs has 33. Cole Beasley has 30. And you mentioned Diggs in terms of the underperforming air yards. That's a great indicator that regression upward towards the mean is something we should be looking for. Buy low on Diggs as well. I'm really confident in him.
Yeah, I was hesitant to buy in on Sanders this entire time. It's funny. So I said this, Jeff. I don't know if I did it yesterday's show or with Meanie, but I said I was hesitant. I was off completely to start the year on Gabriel Davis because of Emmanuel Sanders. But then I was hesitant to buy into Sanders because of Gabriel Davis, because that first week and what we saw in the preseason is they're basically sharing that third role. Well, the last 2 weeks, Gabriel Davis is gone. He's just 1.4%, by the way. So that's, again, but I'm with you is that if I have Sanders, I'm actually looking to trade high on Sanders because mostly because Diggs. I think Diggs is going to hurt him going forward. I want to talk about this when I saw a comment in here, by the way. Do you know, it took me 5 minutes yesterday talking with Pat Mayo while he was talking to search and find how to pronounce the last name, and I got the definitive answer. Do you know how to pronounce Nick Westbrook, the last part? It's Akina.
Okay.
Akina. So it's same UH at both ends, and it's Keen is the enunciation in the middle. So Akina, now you know. Nick Westbrook, Akina. If Julio Jones is out. I like Akina if Julio Jones is playing. I don't if he's out. And this is why, Jeff, and this is a comparison. Like, we did it with Travis Fulgham last year. I was one of the first people to go get Travis Fulgham. But once he's the top option, he's a nice receiver. He's not equipped for that as a talent. And I hate to poo on anybody's talent. I don't know why I paused there, but I hate to crap on anybody as a talent, but that's our job to evaluate. I don't want Akina as the number 1 for the Titans. And I honestly am not even that excited for Chester Rogers, but you know what? Maybe I would take a flyer more on him. But if Julio Jones is out there, Akina is out there almost twice as much as Chester Rogers. Chester Rogers actually 100% 3 wide only. Mm-hmm. What do you say, Paige?
Yeah, and if anything, whatever I can do to play Derrick Henry in DFS, whatever I can do to bet overs on everything Derrick Henry, Like, does he have
30
290
touches?
rushing yards? Yeah, 30 plus touches, 290 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns.
I was gonna say, I wonder what his current receiving prop is. It might not even be up because they might be waiting for this game. I'm gonna look while we're doing this live. Let's see if we can find the Titans. You're starting Julio Jones if he plays, though, right? Even though, despite of re-injuring himself, you're still taking that, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's see. Here, this is the Titans game at Jets. I mean, this game might be over by the second quarter anyway. Let's see if we can game props. Nope, they don't. No, they won't even have player props out yet. They won't let me.
It's early yet for that one. Maybe tomorrow, but sometimes when there's injuries like that too, they're really reluctant.
That's what I was gonna say. I wanted to see Henry's over under for receptions, not receiving yards. Would you say? I'm expecting. I'd say 2.5 is probably going to be the number.
Well, if it was 2.5, it'll be like minus 180 to the under.
Yes,
I think 1.5 or 2.5, but might open at a 1.5 line unless people are looking back to last week. He's actually been more involved in the passing game than I expected.
Period this year. That's
if it's
1.5, I'm going to smash the living hell out of it.
He's approaching he's got to be approaching a career high already. Like, it's getting close in terms of receptions.
All right. Okay. How about this one? Let's get back to those Cardinals. It's DeAndre Hopkins, part 2 of trying to figure out. This is. Did we talk DeAndre Hopkins last week? I think we did, right? With the whether or not you're starting with the injury, and it's like I had him at 14 or 15. It was too high. But that's the thing, Jeff. Is like if I have Hopkins, I'm not pushing him that much lower. Like you need to have a wide receiver 1 or very close to it for me to say don't start DeAndre Hopkins. Now, I say this all the time. It's your team. It's your gut call. If you said I don't trust you, Jake, I don't trust DeAndre Hopkins, I'm benching him for blank last week. You benched him for Kenny Golladay. You would have been right, but I'm not doing it.
I agree.
Okay, so
I don't like to overthink it.
So on the second part of it, pecking order. We just talked about Christian Kirk. Is it still Green, Kirk, Moore? Is that still the order? Is that just the order until further notice?
I think it's all 4 of them until further notice, unfortunately. When you look at the targets, it's almost dead even across the board.
It is. So let me ask you that, because that's where I was kind of hoping we would kind of just transition into it perfectly, which you did. DeAndre Hopkins, is he a potential sell if you're getting top 10 wide receiver value because he's not getting that 23, 24, 25% target share?
Yeah, I don't know.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it this way, Jeff. We don't ever like to buy high, but if somebody came to you, you are the hot. Hey, Jeff, I'm going to open the flex leagues. We're not in the same league, but we're in the flex leagues. You have Hopkins. I'm sending you Mike Williams. Do you hit accept?
It's an interesting topic because I really do buy on this is not a fluke with Mike Williams. Now, he's not going to be an elite, I really doubt, receiver the rest of the season, but it's not a fluke, the production. Expected fantasy points wise, he's number 2 behind only Devontae Adams. And by the way, if you're freaking out, Keenan Allen's number 4 on that list, so I'm not really worried about it. Yeah, they both are feasting. Man,
how about if I sent you CeeDee Lamb?
Oh, then definitely, because I'm still buying in on CeeDee Lamb.
What if I sent you DK Metcalf?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, DeAndre Hopkins, if you can get the top 10, it might be worth getting out of it just to avoid the risk. All right, so let's talk about risk here. Sounds like Higgins out again this week, especially because they're playing on Thursday. Let's just play that game. Let's assume he's out. Has Jamar Chase cemented himself as not just forget the drops, you guys are idiots, this is why we don't care about drops. He is a wide receiver 1. Is he officially now a wide receiver 1, period? Like, he's a wide receiver 1? He's going to continue to be a wide receiver 1 and Tyler Boyd top 25, no Higgins, top 30?
It's weird. They played 47 offensive snaps last week.
Efficient against the Steelers.
Very efficient. I don't know if I should be impressed or concerned with that one, because if they're not going to play a lot of offensive snaps, that's going to put a major damper on things. And let's be clear, he has scored 4 touchdowns as a receiver. Obviously, that's good. By expectation, that number should be 1.5. So he is vastly exceeding what he should be doing from an expected standpoint. And that doesn't mean that he's automatically going to regress, but it also doesn't mean he's going to keep it up. And we probably should expect at least some regression here. I don't know if I would go as far as wide receiver 1 every week, but this week, right now, I'm at 13. So he's right there with no T. Higgins.
Let's see where I have T. Higgins in, because I do the opposite. I said, like, this is because everybody's like, well, what if he does play? So I start with, look, everybody's playing, and I'll move him up once we get the word, because it's like you can't please him no matter which way you go. No. You know this, Jeff. No. If I put him in there, they're like, well, where would he rank if he doesn't play? And then I'm like, if I don't do that, then they're like, well, where does he rank if he does play? Like, I can't win. They're all in to start. To give you an idea, Chase is already at 18, and that's with Higgins in there at 22. So, yeah, I'll be right there with you with Chase with no Higgins. Similar situation with the Steelers. All up in the air. Deontay Johnson, don't know. Juju Smith-Schuster, don't know. The only one we know who's definitely playing is Chase Claypool. But Deontay, Juju, Claypool, how would you rank? Like, I think the one that sounds the most dicey is Deontay. So let's say they all do play. What order is the pecking order for you, Jeff? And let's say Deontay's out. Is it must start Juju? Claypool, we know, because of how bad Ben looks.
The Steelers did come out and say they expect both TJ Watt and Juju Smith-Schuster to practice this week, so that would bode well for him getting back on the field. I think this is a very similar to Amari Cooper situation where it's a pain management injury, but not an injury that's going to sideline him like what Tua suffered, for example. Man, that arm is really bad. It's really bad. And there was some speculation as to whether or not it would get better. And I did a Sirius XM broadcast where the former NFL offensive lineman Jeff Schwartz came on and he said, when was the last time we've ever seen a quarterback show signs of decline and then rebound the next year? Not a young quarterback, a quarterback who is obviously in the twilight of his career. And I can't name a single example of that actually happening. Eli didn't show. I mean,
the 1 year he did. The 1 year when they changed.
How old was he though? Eli wasn't even this old when he was done his career.
I don't know if he wasn't this. He wasn't this old, obviously, because they're the same draft. But that second year after they changed the offenses, actually, it was actually the middle of that first year when they changed the offense. Wasn't he like 32-ish at the time? I'd have to look it up.
Not old. Matthew Stafford's 32.
That's
Russell Wilson's 32.
Fair point.
Is what 39. So
fair point. I'm not. Yeah, I just said fair point. You're right.
I don't know if I would go that far, but for Najee Harris, I don't know if you had this moment, Jake. So I don't look at fantasy. I told people this. I don't look at sports betting. I don't look at DFS. Nothing during the games. I want to watch the games. I want to take some notes if I have to. I want to just chill and kind of take it all in and watch the games for what they were. So watching Red Zone, came across the bottom of the screen and it was like Najee Harris, 14 for 100 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, wow, good rushing day. And I'm like, that's got to be wrong. There's not 14 receptions for Najee Harris.
I saw the targets and I was like, that can't be right.
19 and then 15 for Claypool. They have nobody else to throw to, obviously, when these guys aren't on the field. But, I mean, to answer your question, I absolutely love Najee Harris for this. This is fantastic. He's going to be targeted heavily. Claypool, when the other guys are back on the field, it does put a damper on him because he's still the deep ball receiver. But with no Deontay Johnson, and even with Juju out there, if Juju manages to play, I still am bullish on Claypool. I guess you would have to use Juju, though, as a wide receiver 3.
Okay. I looked it up. Yeah, Eli was 33 the first time. And then the second to last year, he actually threw for 4,300 yards. It was just the touchdowns weren't there. That's when he was 38. So 38, he had a little bit of a bit. It was the 4,300 yards. He still wasn't throwing touchdowns. He still was. And I think we'd all say it wasn't a very good play. That's why they went and drafted Daniel Jones the year after that. I mean, they knew that was coming. All right.
Well, real quick. Azar on here said Brady did it. You're wrong. Brady has not shown signs of decline ever.
That is true.
He had absolutely nobody to throw to.
He got hurt
for a little bit there in New England. Like, oh, his deep ball's gone. No, dude didn't throw deep balls for like 2 years because there was nobody there because they're drafting N'Keal Harry at the end of the first round. They had nobody for him. He finally gets in an offense where he can showcase it. And last year, he was one of the most effective deep ball passers once they got into the flow of that offense. So after you hit halfway through the season, he was extremely effective with the deep ball, and he still is right now. So I haven't seen signs of decline out of Tom Brady.
No, and again, it was the injury too. Is something that he came back from. Is like also maybe not the immediate impact of being 100% Tom Brady. Let's talk about Marquise Brown, Jeff. Let's talk about like leaving touchdowns on the field. You want to talk about drops, and of course, these are highlighted by the fact that everybody saw them happen and everybody saw that they were potential touchdowns. Marquise Brown also this week with the Baltimore Ravens matchup. How are you feeling about him? Is it just, look, forget the drops part of it. Is it Marquise Brown, this is just the volatility and you're going to roll him out there even against Denver? Or is it the matchup enough for you to concern yourself and say, forget the drops again? We're not talking drops, but this is just, it's Deshaun Jackson in his prime. Actually, probably not even to that level with this offense. But that volatility going against Denver, I'm just looking elsewhere.
I'm still going to use him, but I know what I signed up for if I drafted Marquise Brown. I know what I signed up for if I drafted Tyler Lockett. I know what I signed up for at the extreme end of this spectrum if I drafted Tyreek Hill. It's a roller coaster ride from week to week. And the key here, though, Jake, and why last week was a little bit surprising is Brown was really good in week 1 and week 2. So I'm going to take this as a blip on the radar. I also think it's a great opportunity to address Batman, Rashad Bateman. Why does everybody love him this much? I mean, I'm literally getting like crazy should I drop 4 Rashad Bateman questions this week. And I mean, here, if he comes back, he's already behind on a lot of reps. Being a rookie, that's very important. At best, what is he? The number 4 target, right? Because Mark Andrews, Marquise Brown, Sammy Watkins. So he's going to be at least initially the number 4 target in the most run-heavy offense in the league. What am I missing with Rashad Bateman?
Nothing. And that's what everybody asking in waivers. It's people that I would drop is the only people I'm saying Bateman. And what I'm saying is it's people I would drop, and I would pick up Bateman only if you're planning to hold him for weeks, because I've been saying the exact same thing. He's not the number 1. Even if he got to the number 2 option, it's still the Ravens offense. I said this ad nauseum in the preseason. The fact that a 20% boost, actually 25% boost for a quarterback passing attempts would be an absurd number for anybody. 25% boost for Lamar Jackson still only gets him to 500 pass attempts. He had 400 last year. Like, that's what we're talking about. Is it, like, I'm with you. I love Bateman as a talent. There are far few. I can't really think of one worse spot, honestly. I was about to say a few, but I can't think of a worse spot he could have landed.
Yeah, you can't even say New England anymore. No. Like for last year, it would have been a terrible landing spot with Cam under center, but
this year he'd be their number 1 or number 2.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be, and he'd probably be a pretty good Belichick receiver when you think about it.
It probably would be. I wanted to go back to one because how many times the volume is king. Now I'm calling him the volume king. Brandon the volume king Cooks. That's his nickname. But this is interesting. Brandon Cooks has it bad this week. This could be the week where it's finally, all right, you got your 3 for 17 because it's a matchup enough where they have the talent to stop him. They have the talent to stay on him. Jalen Waddle or Brandon Cooks? Because Jalen Waddle is getting the volume with Jacoby Brissett. And Jalen Waddle's got the better matchup, but Jalen Waddle has more competition for touches. Waddle versus Cooks, who are you going with this week?
Jalen Waddle was getting running back targets though last week at whatever 4.5 yards ADOT. I still think I go with Cooks here. I was actually pleasantly surprised last week. I had no expectations whatsoever with Davis Mills under center, and garbage time can still be a thing here. So I'm still going to go with Brandon Cooks. I like you said, I don't love the matchup, but I'm going to stick with that one. And I really do not know what to expect in week 2 of Jacoby Brissett. 12 targets for Gesicki, 13 for Waddle, kind of scratching my head. By the way, Gesicki, he'll be that roller coaster ride because everybody was out after week 1. He's pulling you back in like the Godfather Part 3. No,
he's getting my stiff arm. He can stay over there. You can go. You can have Gesicki. I want nothing to do with that. Will Fuller would have had a touchdown. If not, how do they not call pass interference on that? Like, what? What are we even doing? Anyway, but he's not practicing Will Fuller today, by the way, just for everybody out there. I want to talk about this one. Drop LaVisca, Mooney, or Latavius for AJ Green. I'm bringing this up for 2 reasons, Jeff. Is one, nope, because it's AJ Green. I'm not chasing the 100-yard game. But because also upside replacement guy. AJ Green's replacement guy. LaVisca, upside if he can stay healthy. And then if anything were to happen to Marvin Jones or DJ Shark. Darnell Mooney. I'm still not dropping Mooney. I know Nagy destroyed Justin Fields. I know he did everything possible to not give him options in that offense. It doesn't even sound like it's going to be Justin Fields this week. It sounds like it's going to be Andy Dalton, maybe even Nick Foles, which would be good, because if you're not going to let Justin Fields run a Justin Fields offense, then put Dalton back at put Nick Foles there. Just get me targets for Allen Robinson. But all that being said, I still think Mooney's got a ton of upside, and Latavius Murray's got a ton of upside if Williams got hurt or if he is the lead. AJ Green's just replacement for me. You can find 10 AJ Greens on the waiver wire every single week.
He's comfortable. You know who he is. You've seen his name before so many times, and he's comfortable, but he's not going to win you a fantasy championship. So, yeah, I would leave him out there.
He's who's the one that I used to always compare it to? Is the Green Bay Packers wide receiver towards the end of his career.
James Jones?
No, the other one.
Greg Jennings?
Thank you. And I always hated to do it because I loved Greg Jennings at the time, and he's got the best Madden highlight. He has the single
team on his back.
That Madden highlight of the guy playing the video game where he pulls his leg and runs the entire field for the touchdown is going. It's like
this guy has a broken leg.
It's the best highlight for all time. It's never going to be topped. But I said that towards the end of his career. It's like, I hate to say this, but why do you have Greg Jennings on your roster? You can find 800 Greg Jennings. It's a replacement for a week. It's a waiver guy, and you can find a lot of waiver guys. Let's talk San Francisco again, Jeff. Let's go back to their wide receivers. Ayuk is getting back to 100%. Ayuk last year, now granted, Debo had some injuries of his own, and partly was not even on the field for Ayuk some of those games, and there was no George Kittle. But now we're getting everybody's healthy and everybody's in the mix here, Jeff. Is this going to be a frustrating good luck starting? Is it essentially the healthy Bengals wide receivers with one being a tight end is the fact that you just have to roll all three of them out there every single week? It might be the Tampa Bay Bucks, same situation. Is it just their version of that with a tight end?
I mean, it could be. I'm just waiting for them to change their quarterback. The fantasy crowd is looking at the numbers. I watched the games, and man, Jimmy Garoppolo has not looked good so far. He's dink and dunk. He 6.0 average depth of target.
Who panics more under pressure, Sam Darnold or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Ooh, I think it's Jimmy G. Sam Darnold does have that. He always looks nervous. Like every play, he's like all over the place. It's been effective enough so far, but that's a good call out. Yeah, I don't think he's looked good at all. And I think it's only a matter of time before Trey Lance gets in there. So as everybody is dropping Trey Lance in leagues, I've been scooping him up where necessary. Like if I had a really good top 10 option, like if I have Matthew Stafford, I'm probably not doing that. But I am in a bunch of leagues where I didn't go that route, and I should say I had Matt Ryan. I've moved on from him. I have Derek Carr. I have Sam Darnold. I have Kirk Cousins, and I'm kind of just getting by at the position. I'm scooping them up where I can because it's a matter of time. The play has not been good.
And yeah, you're looking for, this is the conversation you and I had in the preseason. And I saw somebody tweet me this morning, and they said, I drafted Lawrence and Fields, and now I'm starting Stafford. And I was like, so why are you complaining? Like that's why we draft the upside guys, because you're always going to find like the Stafford or so far the Derek Carr or the Kirk Cousins who's top 10. So you can find, they're always out there every single year. You draft for the upside. If it doesn't work out, you find one of those, because we always end up finding one of those. It's quarterback. All right. Are you playing Curtis Samuel in his first game back if he plays this week? This is a very simple question.
No, I'm not. And it's the same way I handled Odell last week. And I thought Odell looked good and he answered all the questions that I had, but I'd rather a player go off on my bench than put up a stinker in my starting lineup.
All right. That's a very easy, simple one. Oh, real quick here. This has nothing to do with this, but Alex and Hunter Smith. I'm not doing serial rankings because I already did a review and ranked over 65 cereals on the site. Just type in Jake cereal rankings and go find the article. I already did it. I scored them all out, Jeff. I gave them 7 different categories of different ways, and I scored out 65 plus cereals.
I don't eat breakfast, so I would be like the worst person to ask right there.
And for everybody, well, for you and for everybody that might be wondering, I didn't do it within like 1 year or 1 month span. I just have a semi-eidetic memory, so I remember the tastes even from when I was 13 of some of these. Like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cereal was the most god-awful cereal in the history of forever. So the French Toast Crunch is not the goat cereal. Go check the link. There is a goat cereal on there. So everybody.
You could start a website, Pro Cereal Focus. How about that?
Pro Cereal Focus.
You graded out.
I did grade them all out. I like it. I'd probably get sued. I'd have to come up with little.
Yeah, especially now. I don't know if you saw they got some investments now. PFF is taking off.
I see that. Yeah, taking off already. How much more can they
They
take
might
off?
be something someday.
Let's talk about the Giants wide receiver situation. No Darius Slayton. Sounds like Darius Slayton's multiple weeks. Shepard could be. Slayton's officially he was out immediately. Shepard at least got tested a little bit. There was speculation he might practice. So let's, as of today, Wednesday, because if Shepard plays, I'd say wide receiver 4 just because of a little bit of more risk. Normally I'd have him as a wide receiver 3. And I see you nodding your head for everybody that's not watching the video. But let's play this game as if there is no Shepard and no Slayton. This is what I said on the waiver show, Jeff, and I want to see if you agree with this one as well. We have definitive wide receiver roles stepped into. Like, this is not, I could see this guy playing out. Like, no, Tony steps into the Shepard role. Colin Johnson steps into the Slayton role. It's that simple. They're open doors, walk through it. These guys are there. The issue I have is I think a lot of people are on Tony for the excitement, for the draft capital, and the excitement. Let me double down on the excitement. Here's my thing. I'm more in on Colin Johnson if they're both out because he's out there in 2 wide. He's out there a lot more. Shepard's out there more than Slayton because he can play outside. Tony's not playing outside. Tony's the slot option. So are you on the same page as me? I don't want to start Colin Johnson, but 14-teamers, people who play in different deeper leagues are listening to us. Colin Johnson over Tony for you as well, or are you going for the Tony excitement and upside?
Well, I mean, Joe Judge purposely went out of his way to talk about Kadarius Toney. Now, he did say, I have the quote in front of me here, we're not going to manufacture 50 to 60 snaps artificially with him. But he said, in terms of how the Saints are playing going forward, if the opportunity presents himself, we'll definitely try and get him the ball. Great coach speak right there. But he did say they want to get the ball in his hands in space and let him do the things that he can be effective doing. I don't know what that translates to for fantasy purposes. I do love that there's a New York football player named Tony. Like, to me, that makes too much sense. But Colin Johnson, I'm curious why the Jags got rid of him. Is this just an Urban Meyer thing? Like, I think there's talent there. Yeah. I don't want to use either of them. If anything, it'll be Kenny Golladay and hopefully a buttload. That's a technical term, Jake, of Saquon Barkley and call it a day with that.
All right. So as we transition into our streamers of the week, this isn't either one of ours for tight end. What about Evan Ingram? For the fact that Evan Ingram, second game back. You're laughing, and I was watching that game. The crowd booed the crap out of him on that second. But I was about to say drop pass, but it wasn't a drop. It got tipped. It wasn't his fault the second time, but that's where everybody is on Evan Ingram now. They're like officially at the point where everything that Ingram doesn't, he's Eric Ebron right now. It's Eric Ebron with the Lions. Every time he doesn't catch a ball, he gets booed now. So all that being said, Evan Ingram volume potential situation with no Shepard and no Slayton?
I don't. I mean, I wish it was the previous coach. Well, I don't totally wish it was the previous coaching regime. But if it was the previous coaching regime, I would say, heck yeah, they're going to throw it to him a ton. I just don't know about Jason Garrett and what he would plan to do here. It just doesn't seem like a Jason Garrett thing to do. So he's still a streamer. I don't want to say, oh, yeah, he's going to see 8, 9, 10 targets. He's still a streamer. He's risk reward. If he gets in the end zone, he's going to be good. And if he doesn't, he probably won't.
Austin Hooper or Evan Ingram?
I right now have Evan Ingram over Austin Hooper.
Austin Hooper, Evan Ingram. How about Evan Ingram or Hunter Henry?
I have Hunter Henry one spot ahead. I was encouraged by what we saw last week.
At which John Smith, I would say, just go ahead and move on from that and start chasing. So let's talk about our streamers, and we'll do tight ends first instead of quarterbacks this week. Mine, I felt like was a layup, and I feel like you took not saying this bad for Jeff, but I feel like we took the two obvious options this week. Like, there are two obvious, if you want to say Evan Ingram, if you're digging for Tommy Tremble now that they traded Dan Arnold. No, these are the easy ones out there in a ton of leagues. We both took them for that reason. Dawson Knox, super easy, barely an inconvenience, going against Houston. Something I've been doing a lot, Jeff, and cover twos, exploitable by tight ends a lot. Houston runs the second most cover two, and Houston's defense just sucks. Like, I wouldn't even be like, you don't even need to go down the cover two road with Dawson Knox. Their defense just is trash. I'm on Dawson Knox. You're on the other option that if you would have taken Dawson Knox, I would have taken. So you're tight end streamer of the week.
Tyler Conklin. The concern with Tyler Conklin, of course, is that it is a run-heavy offense, so how much meat is on the bone week in and week out. But the plus to Tyler Conklin, Jake, this kid's athletic, man. I was really impressed with what he displayed last week. I've been impressed with the usage so far through the first 3 games. We were thinking, oh, it's a big Irv breakout. Well, maybe this is Tyler Conklin's breakout. Every year we see it. The league will try and tell us something in September. Last year it was Logan Thomas, right? And maybe it's Knox, maybe it's Conklin, but we have to take a shot on these guys if they show signs of life early in the season. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I'm hopeful on Conklin. I ended up having to pick him up in a couple industry leagues.
Conklin, Ingram, or Gesicki rest of the season?
Conklin. But I know I'm going to get haters because Gesicki is a love to love, apparently. People know what they're going to get with him. And most of the time, it's going to be Jordan Howard levels of disappointment, but yet they're going to keep going back to the well.
Okay, all right. I'm definitely with you on that one. I was on Conklin preseason. I think we talked about it on this show. I said, the fact is as soon as Irv Smith went down, this team loves some 12, and they don't have an option to run 12 anymore. It's just, and that's what they're doing. They're running 3 wide, and Conklin is their tight end. So, love to see that Conklin's working out. I love to see this as well, Jeff. You mentioned the game earlier, and I watched that game too, is the Joe Burrow against Pittsburgh. And I told a lot of people last week, I had Burrow around 16 or whatever. I said, if you want, don't drop him. But if you want to bench him this week against the Steelers, I'm okay with it for the guys I had in front of him. Watching that game, it wasn't 30 attempts. It wasn't 40 attempts. Hell, it wasn't even that many, period, because he was remarkably efficient. But that's what I like to see, because what I saw was a confident Joe Burrow. I saw the LSU rookie before injury Joe Burrow, and if he's getting back to that, even with no T. Higgins, I think Joe Burrow is not only one of the best streamers this week, because a lot of people dropped him out of frustration, and then also seeing the Steelers matchup, is that Joe Burrow could get back to being what I thought he could be this year as like QB 11 or 12 and a potential every week starter.
And what a signature game here. You're calling this kid generational. By the way, I had one of the best college football seasons ever. Also happened to win the Heisman Trophy, and I'm an afterthought. It's going to be a really interesting statement for him, and it's a nice matchup as well. How do I just don't get Urban Meyer. Like, they hated C.J. Henderson. This dude, what was he, the 8th overall
rounder
pick?
And a tight end?
A tight
end who's been cast around the league. By the way.
A tight end who you could have signed if you really wanted to in free agency this year. It's just unbelievable. They absolutely hated C.J. Henderson.
Yeah. All right. So your quarterback streamer of the week.
Yeah,
going
pretty
back
simple.
to him.
Derek Carr, we said it before, he's the Phillip Rivers of this generation, and that's not a bad thing right now. Even last week in a relatively tough matchup against Miami, he still puts up decent enough numbers. Is Derek Carr going to win you this week? Probably not. Is he going to lose you this week? Probably not. He's a nice, safe option if you're really screwed over at the position. And he's still available in enough leagues where, you could still go out and get him in one quarterback formats.
All right, before we get out of here in this one, I like that pick as well. Bren gets the last question in. Deciding DJ Moore or Chuba for the flex this week is the hardest decision. Where are you going?
No, it's not. It's DJ Moore. That's really easy.
Yeah, I think it's really easy too. All right, Robbie Anderson, are you buying low on him?
Well, somebody asked me if he was on waivers, would I bid on him? And I said $1 because I don't think anybody else bids on him.
That answers that question.
I don't think anybody else bids on him. The fact that Terrace Marshall is sort of closing the ground in terms of routes run is a little bit concerning. It definitely is.
How much longer do we have to wait for Josh Gordon to be a wide receiver too? Just kidding.
Man, he could. People are legit forgetting the fact that he could be on the practice squad the entire year. Like that. It's just because you're signed to the practice squad.
That we've been playing this game of trying to figure out the third, not second, third option on this team, because Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce take up 50% of the passing game. And we've been doing this and playing this game and been frustrated about it for years. Stop chasing this team. You know what you're going to get. You're also going to know what you're going to get following Jeff Ratcliffe at Jeff Ratcliffe for the transition before we get out of the show. Go to FTN. You can check out all the work over there, including cornerback matchups, and all that type of stuff. So make sure you're looking at that, and theathletic.com/BetsTV, all capitals. Get your first free month at The Athletic. Please, again, 5 stars, thumbs up. Send us some happy notes in the comments, whatever it might be, and we'll see you next week. Good luck.